You want to know how the galaxy learned to fear humanity? Let me tell you about the day Magistrate Vornthek made the biggest mistake in his 1700-year career. The day he sentenced Maya Reeves to death. I was there. Third row. Left side. Documenting the proceedings for the Andorian archives. My name is Kelrix, and I have witnessed over 4,000 trials in the Grand Tribunal. Never, and I mean absolutely never, have I seen anything like what happened that afternoon. The tribunal chamber stretched 300 meters high, carved from a single piece of volcanic stone on the neutral world of Paxis 9. Thousands of species sent representatives. The air smelled like ozone and fear, which should have been my first clue that something was about to go catastrophically wrong. Maya Reeves stood in the defendant's circle, barely 1.7 meters tall. She wore standard prisoner clothing, gray and formless. Her hair, dark brown with strange reddish tints when the light hit it right, was pulled back in what humans call a ponytail. She looked bored. Actually bored. Here she was, accused of destroying a Krillian mining facility that killed 12 workers, and she appeared as interested as someone waiting for transport. Magistrate Vornthek towered above her on his judgment platform, his 6 arms spread wide in what we all recognized as his signature pose of authority. His scales gleamed purple-black under the chamber lights. The magistrate belonged to the Saurian collective, one of the oldest and most respected species in the council. When he spoke, entire star systems listened. Human, Vornthek began, his voice booming through the chamber's acoustic amplifiers. You stand accused of terrorism, mass murder, and violation of the Paxis Accords. How do you plead? Maya tilted her head, just slightly, like a predator assessing prey. I plead that you did your homework wrong. A ripple of shock went through the assembled crowd. You do not speak to a magistrate like that. You certainly do not suggest they made an error. I saw Vornthek's secondary arms twitch, a sign of irritation in his species. The evidence is irrefutable. Vornthek continued, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. Your genetic material was found at the site. Your ship was tracked, entering and leaving the system. 17 independent witnesses place you at the facility mere hours before the explosion. Cool story, Maya said, and I swear half the tribunal did not understand the human idiom. Did any of those 17 witnesses actually see me plant the bombs? Semantics will not save you, human. Semantics, that's literally how trials work. You know, evidence, proof, that whole annoying thing where you have to actually demonstrate someone did the crime before you execute them. I was frantically taking notes. The human's tone was wrong. All wrong. Defendants facing capital punishment showed fear, anger, desperation. They begged. They pleaded. They presented evidence. Maya Reeves sounded like she was explaining basic mathematics to a slow learner. Vornthek's primary eyes narrowed. The council has reviewed all evidence. We find you guilty. The sentence is death, to be carried out immediately. That was when Maya laughed. Not a nervous laugh. Not a desperate laugh. A genuine from-the-belly laugh that echoed through the massive chamber. Several species in attendance do not understand human laughter. They thought she was choking. The Blortian ambassador actually started moving toward her, concerned she needed medical assistance. Immediately? Maya wiped her eyes. Oh man. Oh wow. You really do not understand what you just did, do you? Vornthek's posture shifted. I have documented enough trials to recognize when a magistrate realizes they might have made an error. His tertiary arms moved to his sidearm, a plasma disruptor capable of vaporizing most organic material. Explain yourself, human. Quickly. See, here is the thing about humans that apparently did not make it into your little briefing files. Maya's voice changed. The boredom vanished, replaced by something cold and precise. We have this really annoying legal concept called jurisdiction, and this tribunal doesn't have any over me. This is the Grand Tribunal of the Galactic Council, Vornthek said slowly. We have jurisdiction over all member species and any crimes committed in council space. Right. Except, Maya held up one finger. Earth isn't actually a member species. We are observers. We have been observers for 7 years now? We attend meetings, we participate in trade, but we never signed the accession treaty, which means you just sentenced a citizen of a sovereign nation to death without trial in her own legal system. The chamber erupted. Every species started talking at once. I saw council members checking their data tablets, frantically searching through treaty documents. Andorian representative beside me went pale blue, which is never a good sign for their kind. Vornthek's scales darkened. That is a technicality. That's called interstellar law. Genius. But you know what? That's not even the best part. Maya's smile could have cut steel. The best part is that humanity has this other really fun quirk. We protect our citizens. Aggressively. You see that ship hanging in orbit right now, the one your sensors tagged as a civilian transport. Every head in the tribunal turned to look at the holographic display showing orbital space around Paxis 9. There was indeed a human ship there. It had arrived 3 days ago and had been sitting quietly ever since. That is the Valkyrie. Maya continued. She is a Titan-class warship pretending to be a transport. She has been pointed at this building since the moment you brought me into this chamber. And the moment you said execute me immediately, her weapons came online. I checked my own tablet. She was right. Every sensor in the system suddenly showed the human ship's true power signature. It was not a civilian vessel. Not even close. The energy reading suggested enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. You are bluffing, Vornthik said, but his voice lacked conviction. Am I computer? Open channel to the Valkyrie. That is not possible. Vornthik said. This chamber is shielded against all communications. Yeah, against your communications. A new voice filled the chamber. Human, male with an accent. I did not recognize. Magistrate. This is Captain Marcus Hill of the Valkyrie. You have 30 seconds to release Maya Reeves or I start shooting. Your choice. The chamber descended into absolute chaos. Species were screaming. The Draxian ambassador fainted. Several of the smaller species representatives tried to exit through emergency doors that had automatically sealed when the weapons lock was detected. Vornthik drew his plasma disruptor. You dare threaten the Grand Tribunal? I dare protect my officer, Captain Hill replied. 20 seconds. Your officer. Vornthik looked at Maya with new understanding. You are military? Naval intelligence, actually. Maya said cheerfully. And you just tried to execute an intelligence operative of a sovereign nation without due process. In my line of work we call that an act of war. I watched Vornthik's thought process play across his features. He could see the trap now. If he released her he looked weak, and the entire judicial authority of the council would be questioned. If he proceeded with the execution, he might start an interstellar war with a species that was currently pointing apocalyptic weapons at the building. Being Vornthik, he chose the third option. The stupid option. He raised his plasma disruptor and pointed it directly at Maya's head. You will not fire while your operative is in the blast radius. This tribunal finds you guilty. Sentence will be carried out. 10 seconds, Captain Hill said calmly. You are bluffing. Vornthik repeated. 5 seconds. He is not. Maya said softly. We really do not bluff. Vornthik pulled the trigger. What happened next took approximately 4 seconds, but I have reviewed the security footage frame by frame at least 100 times, and I am still not entirely sure how Maya Reeves moved that fast. The plasma bolt left Vornthik's weapon. Maya was already moving. She did not dodge sideways or backward like any sensible species would. She moved forward, inside the firing arc, and the bolt passed over her shoulder so close that her prisoner uniform caught fire. Her right hand came up and grabbed Vornthik's primary weapon arm. There was a sound like breaking tree branches. His arm, reinforced with natural bone plating that could withstand most small arms fire, snapped in 2 places. Vornthik screamed. He tried to bring his secondary arms into play, but Maya was already there. She moved like water, like something that should not be possible at her size and mass. Her left leg swept Vornthik's right leg out from under him. All 250 kilograms of Saurian magistrate crashed to the judgment platform. The security forces finally reacted. 12 armed guards representing 6 different species converged on the defendant's circle with weapons drawn. Maya had Vornthik's plasma disruptor in her hand now. She fired 3 times without looking. 3 guards dropped stunned but alive. The human weapon had settings. Who knew? Stop, she said quietly. The remaining guards stopped. They were not stupid. They could do mathematics. 9 of them. 1 of her. And she had already dropped 3 of their best warriors in less time than it took most species to draw breath. Maya looked down at Vornthik, who was clutching his broken arm and making sounds I had never heard a Saurian make before. She placed her boot on his chest, not hard. Just enough pressure to keep him down. Here is what happens now, she said, and her voice carried through the silent chamber like thunder. You are going to dismiss these charges. You are going to issue a formal apology to the human government for this absolute disaster of a trial. And you are going to do both of those things right now. Never, Vornthik gasped. You are a criminal. Maya's expression did not change. Captain Hill status, weapons fully charged and locked. Say the word. You would not, Vornthik said. But I could hear the uncertainty now. Here is the thing about humans, Maya said. And she leaned down so she was looking directly into Vornthik's primary eyes. We are really good at violence. We have had practice. About 10,000 years of practice. We have fought wars that killed millions. We have weapons that can sterilize continents. We have survived ice ages, plagues, and our own worst impulses. And we have this absolutely terrifying ability to compartmentalize. She straightened up, keeping the plasma disruptor trained on the remaining guards. So yes, I absolutely would let Captain Hill turn this building into a crater. Would it start a war? Probably. Would it end badly for everyone? Almost certainly. But you know what? You tried to execute me for a crime I did not commit. Without trial, without evidence, without basic legal process. And in human culture that means you just made this personal. The silence in the chamber was absolute. I could hear my own heart's beating in triple rhythm. You have 5 seconds, Maya said. Then Captain Hill fires. I kill everyone in this room who looks at me wrong, and we let the historians figure out who was justified. Your choice. I have studied game theory. I have analyzed thousands of negotiations. I knew what Vornthek would choose before he opened his mouth. He was a survivor, and survivors understand when they have lost. The charges, he said slowly, each word clearly causing him physical pain beyond his broken arm, are dismissed. This was a case of mistaken identity. The council offers its apologies to the human government. Say it like you mean it, Maya suggested, pressing slightly harder with her boot. The Grand Tribunal apologizes unreservedly for this error. Maya Reeves is free to go. Much better. Maya stepped back finally and tossed the plasma disruptor to the nearest guard, who caught it clumsily. Computer, close channel to Valkyrie. Channel closed. The tribunal computer confirmed. Maya walked toward the chamber exit. Every eye in the room followed her. She paused at the door, turned back, and smiled. It was not a nice smile. Oh, and magistrate, just so we are clear, I actually did blow up that mining facility. Those 12 workers, they were slavers. The facility was a front for trafficking children from non-council worlds. I have all the evidence in my ship, which I would have presented if you had bothered with an actual trial instead of your little show execution. You just tried to kill someone for stopping a slavery operation. She let that sink in for a moment. I saw several council members go very still. Have a great day, everyone. Try not to sentence any more innocent people to death without trial. It is a bad look. Then she was gone. The chamber remained silent for approximately 30 seconds. Then everyone started talking at once. I sat there, data tablet in my hands, trying to process what I had just witnessed. Vornthek was being attended to by medical personnel. His arm would heal. His reputation would not. Several council members were already calling for his resignation. The Drexian ambassador was still unconscious, and somewhere in orbit, a human warship disguised as a transport ship was powering down its weapons, and Maya Reeves was presumably returning to wherever humans went when they were done terrifying the galaxy. I had witnessed history. The day humanity showed the Galactic Council exactly what kind of species they were dealing with. The scary part? I had a feeling this was just the beginning. The aftermath of Maya Reeves walking out of the Grand Tribunal was, to put it mildly, absolutely insane. Within 6 hours, every major news network across 47 systems was running the story. Within 12 hours, 3 council members had resigned. Within 18 hours, humanity had been formally invited to join the Galactic Council as full members with immediate effect and complete voting rights. They declined. I know, right? Who does that? The Council had never in its 8,000-year history had a species turn down membership. But the human ambassador, a woman named Victoria Park, stood before the emergency council session and politely explained that Earth was perfectly content remaining observer. Thank you very much, and perhaps the council should focus on reforming its judicial system before trying to expand its membership. The diplomatic equivalent of a slap across the face. I was there for that session too. Still documenting, still trying to understand what humanity had just done to galactic politics. Ambassador Park had this absolutely serene expression on her face while delivering the rejection. Several of the older council members looked like they might have cardiac incidents. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me back up to what happened immediately after Maya left the tribunal chamber. I followed her. Of course I followed her. I am an archivist. Documenting significant historical moments is literally my job description. Plus, honestly, I needed to know if she was actually telling the truth about the mining facility. Maya walked through the tribunal complex like she owned it. Guards stepped aside. Court officials pressed themselves against walls. She nodded politely to a few of them, even smiled at a terrified Blorian clerk who dropped an entire stack of data tablets when she passed. I caught up to her at the transport platform. "Excuse me, Officer Reeves." She turned, and I suddenly understood why the guards had looked so nervous. Her eyes were calm, assessing, calculating threat responses before I even finished speaking. Then recognition clicked, and she relaxed fractionally. You are the Andorian. Third row, left side. Taking notes the whole time. My translator implant nearly malfunctioned from surprise. You noticed me?
I notice everything. Occupational hazard.
She checked a small device on her wrist. My ride arrives in 4 minutes. You have until then to ask whatever questions are bouncing around in that big brain of yours. The mining facility, I said immediately. Did you really destroy it? Were they actually traffickers? Maya's expression hardened. Yes and yes. The Krillian Mining Consortium has been running a slave operation for 6 years. They take children from unaligned worlds, forge documentation claiming they are contract workers, and put them in the deep shafts where nobody asks questions. The 12 dead overseers. Brutal ones. The kind who do not hesitate to space a kid who stops working. Do you have proof? 37 hours of surveillance footage. Financial records showing payments to 12 different pirate groups. Testimony from 43 rescued children who are currently in protective custody on Earth. And the personal logs of the facility administrator bragging about his operation. Maya pulled out a data chip. Here. Copy of everything. Go wild. I took the chip with shaking hands. Why did you not present this at trial? Because Vornthik never intended to have a real trial. He was paid off by the consortium. 3 million credits to his private account on Velos Prime transferred 2 days before I was arrested. He was going to execute me. Claim justice was served, and the consortium would go back to business as usual. How do you know about the payment? Maya smiled. Because I am naval intelligence, remember? We know lots of things. We know the consortium has 6 other facilities just like this one. We know 12 council members are receiving regular payments to look the other way. We know the whole operation is backed by the Sarkellian clans, who figured out that slavery is extremely profitable if you call it something else. I felt sick. My species has been part of the council for 4,000 years. We pride ourselves on law and justice, and here was evidence that it was all compromised. Why tell me this? I asked. Because you are going to publish it. You're an archivist. You document truth. Well, here is truth. What you do with it is up to you. A small spacecraft descended toward the platform. That is my ride.
Wait, what about Vornthik? Will there be consequences?
Oh, definitely. Human legal team is already filing charges in 17 different jurisdictions. His accounts are frozen, his reputation is demolished. And the consortium, they are going to have a very bad week. What does that mean? The spacecraft landed, the door opened. Maya started walking toward it, then paused. It means 6 naval intelligence operatives just raided all 6 remaining facilities simultaneously. It means over 200 children are being freed as we speak. And it means the Sarkellian clans are about to learn a very important lesson about what happens when you mess with kids on a planet full of humans who really hate bullies. She climbed into the spacecraft. I called after her. Is it true what people say about humans? That you are dangerously violent? Maya looked back at me. We prefer the term aggressively protective. But yeah, we can be violent. Thing is, most species think violence is the absence of civilization. Humans figured out a long time ago that sometimes violence is what protects civilization. We just got really good at choosing our targets. Then she was gone, and I was left standing on the platform holding enough evidence to topple half the council. So I did what any responsible archivist would do. I published everything. The next 72 hours were spectacular chaos. The Krillian Mining Consortium collapsed overnight. Their stock value dropped 94% in 6 hours. Criminal charges were filed in 23 systems. 16 executives were arrested. The rescued children were returned to their families, with Earth footing the bill for transport and medical care. Vornthik was formally stripped of his position and placed under house arrest pending investigation. 7 other magistrates were suspended. The entire Judicial Review Board resigned in disgrace, and the Sarkellian clans. They issued a formal apology to Earth, and paid reparations totaling 4 billion credits. Not because they felt bad, because 3 human warships appeared in their home system, and politely requested they do so. The clans looked at those ships, did some calculations, and decided that 4 billion credits was cheaper than finding out what would happen if they said no. But the real story, the one that changed everything, happened 6 days after the trial. The council called an emergency session to address what they were calling the humanity situation. Every member species sent their highest-ranking representatives. The chamber was packed. I had front-row seats this time. Ambassador Park represented Earth. She brought 2 assistants, both humans, both carrying data tablets and looking entirely too calm for the circumstances. The council speaker, a Valorian named Thresh, who had held the position for 200 years, called the session to order. His voice resonated through the chamber. We are here to discuss the recent actions taken by humanity and their operative, Maya Reeves, actions that have caused significant disruption to Council operations and member species. Disruption, Ambassador Park repeated. That is an interesting word for exposing massive criminal operations that your government was either incompetent enough to miss or corrupt enough to ignore. The chamber went silent. You simply do not speak to the Council speaker like that. Thresh's face darkened. The Council takes all criminal activity seriously. Really? Because from where I am standing, you took child slavery so seriously that you tried to execute the person who stopped it. That was an error in judgment by one magistrate. An error that involved at least 12 other Council officials receiving payments to enable the operation. An error that spanned 6 years and affected over 400 children. That is not an error, Speaker Thresh. That is systemic corruption. Several Council members started objecting loudly. Ambassador Park waited for the noise to die down, then continued. Here is what humanity finds interesting about the Galactic Council. You have rules for everything. Trade regulations, travel protocols, weapons restrictions, all very organized, very civilized. But you do not have adequate protections for children. You do not have robust anti-slavery enforcement. You do not have mechanisms to hold magistrates accountable when they abuse their power. You have created this massive governmental structure, and somehow you forgot to protect the most vulnerable people in it. We have laws, a Drexian Council member protested. You have words on documents. Laws require enforcement. Enforcement requires people willing to act even when it is uncomfortable or politically complicated. And based on what we have seen, most of you are more interested in maintaining the status quo than actually protecting anyone. Then why not join the Council? Another member asked. Help us reform from within. Ambassador Park smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Because we have been observing you for 7 years. We have watched you debate for 3 months about proper cargo container dimensions, while ignoring credible reports of trafficking. We have seen you censure species for minor trade violations, while taking bribes to overlook atrocities. We have studied your history, and we have found patterns. The Council does not reform. It ossifies. It protects itself and its members at the expense of everyone else. So you refuse to join us? Speaker Thresh asked. We refuse to be complicit in your dysfunction. Earth will continue as an observer. We will continue trade relationships with individual species. We will continue sharing technology and cultural exchanges, but we will not join an organization that sentenced one of our citizens to death without trial, and then acts offended when we object. You threatened this entire tribunal, someone shouted from the back rows. We protected our citizen from an illegal execution. There is a difference. Ambassador Park gestured to one of her assistants who activated a holographic display. This is a map of human space. 14 colony worlds, 47 outposts, 23 military installations. Notice something? We are not expanding toward Council space. We are moving in the opposite direction. We are not interested in your territory. We are not interested in your politics. We are interested in being left alone to build our civilization on our terms, and if the Council insists on jurisdiction over human citizens in Council space, Speaker Thresh asked carefully, then we stop coming to Council space. We withdraw all human ships, close our embassies, cease all trade with member species, and you lose access to human technology, human markets, and human protection. Protection? Someone laughed. From what? Ambassador Park's smile widened. You have been very lucky for the past 8,000 years. The species that joined the Council were mostly peaceful explorers, scientists, traders, but the galaxy is a big place. There are things out beyond your borders that are not peaceful, not scientific, not interested in trade. Humanity has encountered some of them already. We know how to fight them. We have been doing it for our entire history. If you think Maya Reeves taking down one corrupt magistrate was impressive, you should see what happens when we actually go to war. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees. Is that a threat? Speaker Thresh asked quietly. That is a statement of fact. Humanity offers friendship, trade, and mutual defense if you want it. But we will not submit to a government that has demonstrated it cannot even protect children from slavery. Fix your House Council. Reform your judicial system. Root out the corruption. Protect the vulnerable. Then maybe we can talk about membership. Until then, Earth remains an observer, and human citizens remain under human jurisdiction. Any attempt to arrest, detain, or prosecute a human without coordination with Earth government will be considered an act of war. She let that hang in the air for a moment, then gathered her data tablets. We are done here. Have a productive session. And just like Maya before her, Ambassador Park walked out of the chamber like she owned it. The emergency session dissolved into chaos. Species were arguing. Accusations flew. 3 separate fistfights broke out which required security intervention. The whole thing was a disaster. But here is what nobody talks about. Here is the part that did not make it into official records. 4 hours after the session ended, 17 species quietly contacted Earth directly. They wanted individual treaties, mutual defense pacts, technology exchanges. They saw which way the wind was blowing. They understood that humanity had just offered the Council a choice, and smart species were hedging their bets. Within 2 weeks, Earth had formal alliances with 43 non-Council worlds, and 12 Council members acting independently of Council authority. Within a month, the Council passed comprehensive judicial reform including mandatory oversight for all capital cases and strict anti-corruption measures. Within 3 months, the Galactic Anti-Trafficking Initiative was established, funded primarily by Earth, and staffed by a mix of species including 17 humans, all trained by naval intelligence. Maya Reeves was promoted to commander and given command of the Initiative's Enforcement Division. Last I heard, she was hunting down the remains of the Sarkellian operation with extreme prejudice. Vornthick was tried, convicted, and sentenced to 40 years imprisonment. He appealed twice. Both appeals were denied. Sometimes justice actually works. And me? I published the complete account of everything I witnessed. It won the Dorian Prize for Historical Documentation. More importantly, it became required reading in diplomatic schools across 200 systems. The galaxy learned something important that week. It learned that humans are not to be trifled with, not because they are stronger or faster or more technologically advanced, though they are surprisingly capable in all those areas, but because humans have this peculiar quality where they actually mean what they say. When they tell you something is unacceptable, they will burn down systems to prove the point. But they also learn something else. Something equally important. Humans can be the best friends you ever make. They are loyal. They are generous. They share their technology, their culture, their protection. All they ask in return is that you treat people, especially vulnerable people, with basic dignity. It is really not that complicated. The Council still exists. It still governs most of the galaxy. But it is different now. Better. Not perfect, but better. And every time some magistrate or official thinks about cutting corners or looking the other way on injustice, they remember Maya Reeves standing in that tribunal chamber with a stolen plasma disruptor. And they think twice. Sometimes the galaxy needs to be reminded that civilization is not about laws and structures and governmental procedures. It is about protecting people. All people. Especially the ones who cannot protect themselves. Humanity understood that instinctively. The rest of us are still learning. And honestly, I think we are better for it.